Novo Nordisk's stock is higher this morning on first quarter results. We're going to look at a longer-term chart and check that out in a second. The company said it anticipated sales of its Wegovy weight loss drug would improve in the second half of the year. That's what I'm talking about right there. As the availability of copycat compounded drugs is phased out. Joining us now, Emily Field, Barclays, head of European pharmaceutical equity research. You can cover, I know you cover a couple of American names, or you can at least speak to them, Emily, but this is your fort, European drugs. That is a sickening chart. I don't know, I guess that's compounding and competition. Even though they said it'll be a little bit better, you still think compounding competition is a problem. You're not ready to pound the table on buying this, are you?
Well, we do still recommend the stock. However, I think what's really going to start to get the party going again is seeing if they can generate prescription volume growth in the U.S. when compounding goes away. We've all kind of underestimated the impact that this has had. It's scheduled to go away on May 22nd. So really, it's over the summer, it's going to be put up or shut up for Wegovy. Either scripts come back, or I think people are just going to assume, well, Lilly's going to take this whole market.
What describe that? It looks like a black diamond slope there at Aspen or something. What really happened over the last? Because these are hot as a pistol. If you don't have an obesity drug, then you look like Moderna or Pfizer. But even having one didn't help here.
Yeah, I mean, for these guys, it's, I hate to use a cliche, but it's almost been like death by 1,000 cuts, right? Like right before Christmas, they had data for their next generation version of Wegovy. It's called CagriSema. They promised greater than 25% weight loss, came in at 22.7. Does that make any difference to doctors? No. But when a company misses expectations like that, they're going to get hammered. And then as we got into this year, this phenomenon of compounding, Wegovy scripts, instead of going like this, like they did a couple of years ago, they've just been like this. We get no data on compounding. We're assuming that that's where a lot of the volume is going in the U.S. because you can just walk into a med spa, walk out with a prescription, or sign into Hims online. Well, not anymore. And so that's just led to a pretty sharp decline in Novo's multiple. This thing can trade at 40 times when it's beat and raised, beat and raised, beat and raised. But that party kind of ran out of steam in the second half of last year.
Emily, is there a safety difference between any of these drugs? Is one of them considered better than another? I mean, 22.8% or 22% loss versus 25% as a consumer, I wouldn't particularly care. What I would care about is if there's one that has worse side effects.
Yeah, exactly. And, that's the beauty of these drugs and why we're still big believers in this longer term is that for the most part, there's been no known very serious long-term side effects. And really the major side effects for both Novo's drugs and the Lilly drugs are gastrointestinal discomfort, vomiting, diarrhea, constipation when you first start them, because it's sort of rejiggering your gut in a pretty aggressive way. But for most people, if they can get through that few weeks of discomfort, then they kind of settle into a steady state and those side effects go away. Of course, fewer gastrointestinal side effects could be how players differentiate down the road. But, from a clinical data perspective, they're all pretty much in the same ballpark for now.
Some crazy... It just struck me, but there's some gallbladder thing, too. And people probably think I was on one of these things because I wasn't. But now I could go on one because I don't have one anymore. But, rejiggering your gut is not a big sales, not something that you'd want to put on your advertisements. Let's rejigger your... let me ask you about two other issues. Tariffs and how it's going to affect European drug makers. And also... the idea that maybe they need to start innovating again, and that you're not going to get a free ride, you're not going to get the price controls on all the U.S. innovation that's exported over there. They've sort of had a free lunch. Does that make you more positive on European pharma or less positive?
Well, I mean, mean, when it comes down to the tariff issue, of course, we still don't have any clarity yet. But one thing that we've been positively encouraged by is that, we saw some of these big CapEx announcements from a lot of the American players over the last few months, Lilly, Johnson & Johnson, and it was sort of radio silence from the European guys. We've since seen Novo Nordisk, Roche, and then Novo talked about it this morning, not a formal announcement, but they're talking about really amping up their investment in the U.S. And then on the other side, to your other question, there was a letter to the FT from the CEOs of Novartis and Sanofi, basically addressing that same issue of saying that Europe is not, paying for innovation. They're not getting access for drugs, and there does need to be something to level that playing field, whether it's Americans perhaps paying too much and paying a bit less, or Europeans paying too little and needing to pay a bit more. It does feel like something's got to give over the next few years on that front.